Good evening, everyone. This is Mike, and I'm here for another episode of Genre Files. This week we are doing comedy, and I picked a film that is pretty obscure. I'd be surprised if a lot of you know about it. And I found this at a used video store about 3 or 4 days ago, and had never seen it. Remembered it because I saw it advertised in the newspaper back in 1969, and the film is Putney Swope. Putney Swope. You just don't forget a poster that looked exactly like that, right? Putney Swope, the Truth and Soul movie, came out in '69. It's an American film directed by and written by Robert Downey Sr. And I didn't know a lot about Robert Downey Sr., but I guess I looked him up online, and he has a long string of films, very low budget, obscure underground films that most of which I had never heard of, that he had been doing over the years, mostly as a writer and a director, but he also he worked as an actor in a lot of other people's films as well. The only other film that he wrote and directed that I remember hearing the title of is called Greaser's Palace, and I would kind of like to see that. Anyway, Putney Swope is a satirical black comedy that has something in it to offend just about everybody. I'm going to read the synopsis on the back, which is always the best thing to do. Okay. Here we go. Truth and Soul Incorporated. Here's the back, by the way. It shows you some of the characters. And the guy there with the beard, that is Putney Swope himself. If you had a kid, would you name him Putney? I don't think so. A hallmark of 1960s radicalism and one of the first underground films, Robert Downey Sr.'s seminal Putney Swope remains a classic of social satire. Here's the plot. After the CEO croaks during a boardroom meeting at a Madison Avenue ad agency, members trying to sabotage each other's chance of winning the top spot all vote for the token black guy, Putney Swope. Swope, after winning, swoops into action, firing them all and replacing them. These are all white guys, right, except for him. And firing them all, replacing them with armed radicals, soul brothers, and sexy red-hot mamas. But they do keep one white guy as a token, okay? And he's pretty much a buffoon. Putney sets about, he renames the agency Truth and Soul. He sets about revolutionizing the corporate world of advertising, banning the marketing of products such as cigarettes, alcohol, and violent toys for children. The agency produces raucous, kooky TV spots, offensive, humorous, and at first, wildly successful. But can Truth and Soul last, not only in advertising, but within Putney himself? Now, here's a little critical blurb from the New York Daily News. It called it vicious and vile, the most offensive picture I've ever seen. Okay? Putney Swope. I have to admit, it was very funny. Now, I'm not saying that all the things that were supposed to be funny worked for me, but I got a lot of laughs out of this. And okay, so the movie's in black and white, but they show all these commercials that the Putney Swope's agency put together to advertise on television, and all the commercials are shown in color, and they're all very creative, very interesting, with a lot of good camera work, and a lot of them are also very funny. And all the characters in the film, black and white, they're stereotypes, even beyond stereotypes. Everybody is made to look totally almost surreal. Nothing is meant to be taken seriously. I think maybe at the time, considering the way the world was in 1969 with race relations, it was probably considered to be a good commentary, or at least an interesting commentary, on the status of the racial situation in the United States. And it still makes some interesting points, although I don't know, I found the whole thing to be so over the top that I didn't see it as a very, progressive statement about race. And since all the black characters are every bit as ridiculous as the white characters, it's kind of hard to take it in any kind of a serious way as a commentary. But absolutely worth seeing. And I don't know, I've always been curious about it. Funny, I hadn't thought about this title in decades until I saw it in the store, and I just grabbed it. I was not going to pass this up. The star of the film is a man named Arnold Johnson, whom I never heard about, but I looked him up online as well, and he was an actor with a fairly long list of credits, maybe 20 or 25 credits. mostly uncredited appearances in films. For example, he was in Rocky. He said he was uncredited in Rocky, and he just shows up here and there. And I don't know, the only two actors whose names I recognize were Antonio Fargas, who was a very prolific actor, and Alan Garfield. Everybody else, to me, I have no idea who they are. According to Robert Downey Sr.'s commentary, they were all off-Broadway actors, people who were wannabe actors, and they were trying to get a foothold. Maybe they had worked for him in some other film. And he said that Arnold Johnson, they liked his appearance, and they thought he made a good presence in the film. He had trouble remembering his lines, so Robert Downey Sr. actually dubbed every one of this guy's lines all throughout the film so that they could get it done, because the guy could not remember his lines. Anyway, so some of the jokes are very funny. I mean, especially at the beginning when starts out in a boardroom meeting with all these the suits sitting around saying really, inane things about selling beer and being advertising executives and all that. One guy gets up and he says, "Our job is to manipulate the consumer by arousing his desires. Then we will satisfy those desires for a fixed price." So that tells you everything you need to know about the advertising world, not only then, but now. And that's exactly what, when Putney Swope and his gang of radicals take over, they want to change everything and be different and not rip people off. But of course, they end up being just as corrupt as the white people were. So I don't know. It's very, maybe that's the point. Maybe the filmmaker is trying to make the statement that no matter who you are, you're very likely to sell out for the almighty buck and not be completely righteous, even if you start out that way. Now, it may have been different if there had been a black person directing this and writing it. Maybe it would have been a little more on the serious side and not done for complete, total comedy. But that's a conjecture on my part. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to see this, if you come across it in a used video store or something, because it doesn't seem to come around on TV very much, give this a chance. Putney Swope is a very interesting example of where a lot of people's heads were at back in 1969. And my head was in high school. I was 18 at the time. But yeah, I'm very glad I finally got a chance to see this. So that's my contribution to the genre of comedy. Thank you for watching. And if anybody has seen this, if you know anything about it, please let me know what you think, okay? All right. Thank you very much for watching. Comments are welcome.